dark penthouse living room. The room is filled with the soothing sound of jazz. A phone vibrates on a glass coffee table, lighting up with a notification. Min-soo, your ideal match has been found, Kim Taeyoon. Min-soo picks up the phone, his gaze lingering on the message. A faint smile curls his lips, but a predatory glint flashes in his eyes. Min-soo, whispering, "How interesting." He places the phone back down and lifts a glass of wine, as if toasting to a new intrigue. Jungkook's office. Taeyoon strides into the office, his steps echoing through the space. He's just returned from a business trip to Dubai, and his impatient gaze reveals his eagerness. Taeyoon. Jungkook! I couldn't wait until tonight. Jungkook looks up from his monitor, initially surprised, but then his face lights up with joy. Jungkook, warmly. You didn't even give me time to miss you. How was your trip? Taeyoon, wrapping an arm around his shoulders. It went well, but I couldn't wait to see you. A week without you felt like torture. Jungkook, slightly flustered, hides a smile and hurriedly starts wrapping up his tasks. Jungkook. Give me a couple of minutes to finish up, and we can head to the restaurant. Taeyoon, reassuringly. Take your time. I'm just happy to be here with you. After a while, Jungkook, now dressed and ready, approaches Taeyoon. Taeyoon, gazing thoughtfully out the window, suddenly turns with an unexpected suggestion. Taeyoon, I have an idea. Let's get our friends together and spend the weekend in the mountains. Snowboarding, snowy peaks, hot chocolate. What do you think? Jungkook raises an eyebrow, clearly surprised. Jungkook, with a slight smile. Snowboarding? Are you sure you can handle it? Taeyoon, challengingly. Of course. What about you? Jungkook, smirking. I'm pretty good. But the real question is, can you handle losing? Taeyoon gently touches Jungkook's face, his fingers lingering just a moment longer than necessary. Taeyoon, softly, almost whispering. You'll find out. But I doubt I'll lose, although, with you, I might make an exception. Jungkook felt the warmth of his touch, and for a moment, the world seemed to stand still. Jungkook, with a slight smile. Don't expect me to go easy on you. Taeyoon, laughing. Well then, this weekend should be interesting. Mountain Hotel Reception. The group stands at the reception desk, with snowboards and suitcases beside them. Outside the window, the snow-covered peaks gleam in the sunlight, and the atmosphere is filled with eager anticipation. Receptionist, smiling. Welcome. Your rooms are ready. Hoseok and Jimin, you'll be in single rooms on the 3rd floor. Mr. Kim and Mr. John will share a double room on the 4th floor. Jungkook lifts his head, looking slightly flustered. Jungkook, nervously. In the same room? Taeyoon, calmly, with a smile. Separate beds. I made sure of that. Hoseok, winking. Oh, this is going to be fun. Jimin, smiling. Don't worry, Jungkook. Taeyoon doesn't even snore. Jungkook feels his cheeks heat up as he lowers his gaze, trying to hide his embarrassment. Although Hoseok and Jimin had only just met, they already seemed like old friends. Their endless jokes and playful teasing brought a lively energy to the group, as if they'd known each other forever. As they headed to the elevator, Taeyoon slowed his pace to walk beside Jungkook. Taeyoon, quietly but confidently. If this worries you, I want you to know. I always remember that this is your first relationship, and I will never cross your personal boundaries. Jungkook glanced at him, feeling warmth in Taeyoon's tone and sincerity in his words. Jungkook, offering a reserved smile. Thank you. I trust you. Even with Taeyoon's reassurance, Jungkook couldn't completely shake off a slight nervousness. The thought of sharing a room for the first time made his heart beat just a little faster. In the elevator, Hoseok and Jimin enthusiastically discussed plans for the evening, their voices lively and cheerful. Meanwhile, Taeyoon stood beside Jungkook, occasionally sneaking glances at him, fully aware of how uneasy he felt. The group left their belongings in their rooms, dressed in vibrant snow gear, and headed to the ski lift. Before them lay a wide, perfectly groomed slope, sparkling under the sun. At the top of the slope, they checked their bindings, breathed in the crisp mountain air, and agreed on a race to the bottom. Hosiak, raising his hand. Ready? On the count of 3. Jimin, cheerfully. Just don't forget, falling at the start is the worst way to lose. Hosiak. 1, 2, 3. All 4 launched themselves down the slope, their boards quickly picking up speed. Snow sprayed from their edges, and the wind whipped against their faces. Taeyoung and Jungkook quickly surged ahead, their movements smooth and controlled, as if they were in sync. They seemed to be competing with each other, either willing to back down. Jungkook, smiling, shouting over the wind. Didn't you say you rarely lose? Taeyoung, laughing. Let's find out now. Hosiak and Jimin stayed a bit further behind, watching the friendly rivalry unfold between the two. Taeyoung and Jungkook raced side by side, approaching the finish line. Just before crossing it, they both pulled sharp stops, spraying snow into the air. But the speed and excitement got the better of them. Their trajectories crossed slightly, and they both slipped, tumbling onto the soft snow together. Lying on their backs, they caught their breath, grins spreading across their faces. Jungkook, laughing. So, this is how you play when you don't want to lose? Taeyoung, laughing back. I'd say you pushed me. They burst into louder laughter, lying side by side as all tension and competitiveness melted away. Hosiak and Jimin slid down to them moments later. Hosiak, putting a hand to his forehead. Did you two decide to take a nap right here? Jimin, grinning. Do you even realize how ridiculous you looked? Taeyoung and Jungkook glanced at each other, then started laughing again, knowing this memory would stay with them for a long time. After an exhilarating run, Jimin and Hosiak decided to keep going further down the slope. Hosiak, winking. You two stay here, relax, and don't freeze. Jimin, laughing. And don't forget to catch up with us. Jungkook and Taeyoung stayed lying in the snow, savoring the quiet moment of solitude. The cold air lightly prickled their skin, while delicate snowflakes drifted softly from the sky. Jungkook gazed at the sky until Taeyoung raised his hand, as if trying to catch the falling snowflakes in his palm. Taeyoung, gently. Do you know what people in Dubai call their loved ones? Jungkook shifted his gaze to Taeyoung's hand, his brow furrowing slightly. Jungkook. No. What? Taeyoung turned his head toward him, his voice quiet, almost a whisper. Taeyoung. They call them Habibi. It means my soul. Jungkook froze, his eyes still on Taeyoung's hand. Taeyoung, smiling thoughtfully. And you know, the best, brightest, and purest part of my soul feels like it's in you. You're like this snow, so pure and genuine. He turned his gaze to Jungkook, his eyes reflecting calmness and something profoundly deep. Taeyoung. You're my Habibi, Jungkook. You're my soul. Jungkook slowly propped himself up on his elbows, his eyes studying Taeyoung's face with quiet intensity. Leaning in slightly, his warm breath brushed against Taeyoung's cheek. Taeyoung slowly closed his eyes. Jungkook leaned closer and gently pressed his lips to Taeyoung's, a soft, warm kiss, like the tender touch of a snowflake melting in their warmth. In the distance, voices from other snowboarders broke the silence. Jungkook, as if snapping back to reality, lay back down, covering his face with his hand to hide the blush spreading across his cheeks. Taeyoung opened his eyes, looked at him, and smiled. Taeyoung, happily. Do you know you just made me the happiest person? You kissed me first. Jungkook looked up at the sky, feeling his heart pounding as if it might leap out of his chest. He said nothing, but his smile spoke volumes more than words ever could. After an eventful day on the slopes, the friends returned to the hotel. Snow boots leave wet trails on the warm floors, and the sound of Hosiak and Jimin's laughter fills the hall. Jimin, cheerfully. So, what's it going to be, restaurant or bar? Hosiak, thinking aloud. Bar, of course. Let's toast to our first day in the mountains. Jungkook and Taeyoung follow a few steps behind, exchanging brief glances and soft smiles, as if the rest of the world faded beyond the boundaries of their little circle. As they pass by the reception desk, a confident voice stops them in their tracks. Min-soo. Kim Taeyoung? Taeyoung turns and sees Min-soo, a tall, elegant man in a stylish jacket. His smile is friendly, but his eyes betray a confident determination. Taeyoung politely. Yes, that's me. And you are? Min-soo, extending his hand. Min-soo. A pleasure to finally meet you. I came here specifically to introduce myself. Taeyoung frowns slightly, his gaze flickering to Jungkook, who has paused beside him. Taeyoung. I'm sorry, but I don't quite understand. Min-soo pulls out his phone, unlocking a message displaying the result of the matchmaking program. On the screen, his profile is paired with Taeyoung's name. Min-soo smiling. See? We're a perfect match. Artificial intelligence doesn't lie. Jungkook and Taeyoung exchange glances. A flicker of tension passes through Jungkook's expression, while Taeyoung exhales quietly, his understanding of the situation sinking in. Taeyoung, politely but firmly. Min-soo, I apologize for this misunderstanding. We forgot to delete the profile. It's just an error. Min-soo presses his lips together briefly, his smile faltering, but he quickly recovers. Min-soo lightly. I see. But since I'm here, perhaps we can still talk? Even if it's a mistake, I'm sure we have plenty in common. Taeyoung with a soft but resolute smile. Thank you for understanding, but I already have plans. He steps back, gesturing subtly toward Jungkook, who stands beside him. Min-soo's eyes sweep over Jungkook from head to toe, a flicker of both curiosity and dissatisfaction crossing his face. Min-soo, with a faint smirk. Well, I won't intrude. But if you ever change your mind, I'm always open for a conversation. Min-soo steps away, but his lingering gaze reveals that he has no intention of giving up. This encounter only deepens his resolve to win Taeyoung over. Taeyoung turns to Jungkook and gently places a hand on his shoulder. Taeyoung quietly. I'm sorry about that. I didn't expect it. Jungkook calmly, with a hint of awkwardness. It's fine. They catch up to Jimin and Hoseok, already seated at a table in the bar. The atmosphere grows warmer with laughter and conversation, though the tension from the encounter with Min-soo lingers subtly in the background. Min-soo, frustrated by Taeyoung's rejection, steps into the restaurant where soft live music fills the air. He takes a seat by the window, staring at a glass of wine in front of him. His thoughts are clearly elsewhere. Daegun approaches confidently, a slight smirk playing on his lips. Daegun, curiously. What's with the gloomy face? Who managed to upset someone as gorgeous as you? Min-soo glances at him briefly, showing no interest in engaging. Min-soo sharply. It's none of your business. Daegun, with a chuckle. Oh, I like that attitude. Difficult types are my weakness. Min-soo turns fully, his gaze cold and piercing. Min-soo dryly. Stop flirting. I have a proposition. Daegun raises an eyebrow, his interest clearly piqued. Daegun. A proposition? Now you've got my attention. Go on. Min-soo leans closer, whispering something in his ear. Daegun initially looks surprised, but soon a wide grin spreads across his face. Daegun smirking. You're actually serious? This could be fun. They shake hands, sealing the deal. Min-soo coldly. You know what to do. After leaving Daegun, Min-soo heads back to his room. He opens his suitcase and pulls out a carefully wrapped gift, a rare jazz record he had intended to give Taeyoung during their meeting. A faint, almost triumphant smile touches his lips as an idea begins to form in his mind. Min-soo runs a hand over the packaging of the record, as if assessing its value, then places it back into the suitcase. With confidence, he heads toward the door. Min-soo, quietly, almost to himself. The perfect moment for the perfect plan. At the bar, Jimin and Hoseok, noticing how much Taeyoung and Jungkook are enjoying their time together, exchange knowing glances. Hoseok with a grin. Something tells me we're not needed here. Jimit. Exactly. Let's hit the shooting range and give them some space. The two leave the bar, leaving Taeyoung and Jungkook alone. A few minutes later, Minsu appears in the bar. His expression is friendly, almost apologetic, as he approaches Taeyoung and Jungkook. Minsu. Sorry to bother you again, but I wanted to make up for the misunderstanding and offer a little something. Just as a keepsake. Taeyoung and Jungkook exchange a silent, surprised look. Minsu, with an apologetic smile. It's a rare jazz record, but there's a slight issue. Taeyoung, curious. An issue? Minsu, sighing. The lock on my suitcase is stuck, and I can't get the gift out. I was hoping you might help me. Taeyoung glances briefly at Jungkook, as if waiting for his response. Jungkook, smiling, teasingly. Go ahead and help. Don't leave him stranded. Besides, it's partly our fault for not deleting the profile on time. Taeyoung's lips curve into a soft smile as he looks at Jungkook, then he stands up. Taeyoung, politely. All right, I won't be long. Jungkook, nodding. Don't worry. I'll wait here. As Taeyoung and Minsu head toward the elevator, Jungkook remains at the table. He watches them leave for a moment, but quickly brushes off an odd sense of unease, focusing instead on the lively atmosphere of the bar. Moments later, Daegun joins Jungkook at the table, holding a cocktail in hand. Daegun, smiling. You must be Jungkook? Taeyoung asked me to keep you company so you wouldn't get bored. Jungkook, lost in thought, nods absent-mindedly. Jungkook. Thanks, but I'm fine. Noticing Jungkook's distraction as he listens to the music coming from the stage, Daegun seizes the moment. He accidentally spills Jungkook's drink. Daegun, apologetically. Oh no, I'm so sorry! Let me get you another one. He quickly heads to the bar, where he prepares a replacement drink, carefully adding a dose of sedative to it. Returning to the table, he places the new glass in front of Jungkook with a charming smile. Daegun. Here you go. Sorry again for the trouble. I'm sure you'll like this one. Jungkook, a bit flustered but polite, smiles faintly and picks up the glass, completely unaware of the scheme unfolding around him. Taeyoung heads to the room with Minsu. Minsu tries to maintain a conversation, focusing on their shared interests, but Taeyoung's replies are brief. His mind is elsewhere, on Jungkook. Minsu, smiling. Did you know this record is considered one of the best in its genre? Your love for jazz fascinated me when I first learned about you. Taeyoung nods, but his eyes shift to the suitcase. Leaning down, he notices the lock is fully functional. Taeyoung, curiously. The lock seems fine. Minsu offers a small smile, as if expecting the comment. Minsu, lightly. It must have been stuck before, but it looks like you fixed it effortlessly. He opens the suitcase and takes out the record. Taeyoung glances at it, but a strange unease starts to creep in. Something about Minsu feels off, as though he's deliberately stalling. Taeyoung, calmly. Thank you for the gift, but I should get going. Minsu, firmly. Wait, Taeyoung. I need to tell you something. Taeyoung freezes, turning to face Minsu. Minsu, seriously. Taeyoung, Jungkook isn't from our world. You deserve someone who understands your life, your responsibilities, your status. Someone who knows what it means to live in your shoes. Taeyoung remains silent, but his gaze hardens, tension building in his stance. Minsu, earnestly. I'm not saying this out of greed. I don't need anything from you. I'm from your world, too. I know what it's like to live under the weight of an enormous inheritance. Only someone like me can stand beside you as an equal. Taeyoung steps back abruptly, his expression cold and resolute. He tosses the record onto the bed. Taeyoung, with icy determination. You're mistaken. And forgive me, but I'm not interested in having this discussion. Your gift, like your opinion, is of no use to me. He turns on his heel and exits the room quickly, his footsteps firm and deliberate, though a growing sense of unease gnaws at him from within. Taeyoung descends to the bar and scans the room, immediately searching for Jungkook. His seat is empty. Approaching the bartender, he tries to maintain composure, though worry flickers in his eyes. Taeyong. The guy who was sitting here. Did you see where he went? The bartender, polishing a glass, shrugs. Bartender. He left with Dagon. Local celebrity, you could say. Always snags new visitors for short-term company. The bartender's words hit Taeyong like a blow. His heart races. Taeyong, barely containing his urgency. Thanks. He spins around, scanning the bar to confirm Jungkook isn't there. Panic sets in, and his thoughts spiral as he frantically considers where Jungkook might be. Taeyong strides toward the reception desk, his expression hard and unrelenting. Taeyong sternly. Where is Dagon staying? The receptionist hesitates at first, but Taeyong's aggressive, unwavering gaze makes him falter. Receptionist nervously. 4th floor, room 412. Without waiting, Taeyong turns on his heel and rushes toward the room, his steps echoing down the hallway. As he reaches the door, he notices it's slightly ajar. His breathing quickens. He pushes the door open and steps inside. Before him unfolds a horrifying sight. Jungkook lies on the bed, seemingly unconscious, his face pale. Dagon sits beside him, phone in hand, laughing loudly as he takes selfies, pulling Jungkook closer. Fury surges through Taeyong like an unstoppable wave. Taeyong threateningly. Get your hands off him. Dagon slowly rises from the bed, his expression filled with arrogant confidence. Dagon calmly, with a smirk. Your friend had too much to drink. Like a true gentleman, I brought him here to rest. Without waiting for further excuses, Taeyong delivers a sudden, powerful kick to Dagon's chest, sending him crashing into the corner of the room, knocking over a chair. Dagon gasping. Hey! What the hell is your problem? Taeyong sits on the bed and gently lifts Jungkook, his voice soft but laced with worry. Taeyong quietly. Jungkook? Can you hear me? Jungkook doesn't respond, his body limp in Taeyong's arms. Behind him, Taeyong hears the door creak open, and Minsu steps into the room. Dagon angrily. This wasn't the deal! You said no one would lay a hand on me. The photos are ready. When are you paying me? Taeyong turns slowly, his gaze landing on Minsu with seething rage in his eyes. Taeyong dangerously. Shut your mouth, Dagon, unless you want me to end you right here. Carefully, he lifts Jungkook into his arms, every movement deliberate and tender. As he passes by Minsu, Taeyong pauses briefly, his voice low and dripping with menace. Taeyong, if we meet again, you won't leave unscathed. Minsu remains rooted in place, speechless under the weight of Taeyong's threat. Taeyong carries Jungkook back to their room, fighting to keep his anger and fear in check. His chest tightens with the thought of what could have happened. Closing the door behind him, he gently lays Jungkook on the bed and sits beside him, his breath uneven as he struggles to calm himself. Taeyong stays by his side, watching over him as Jungkook sleeps deeply. Morning. Jungkook slowly opens his eyes, feeling a slight heaviness in his head, as the details of last night blur in his memory. He tries to move but notices a gentle warmth on his hand. Turning his head, he sees Taeyong sleeping on the floor beside him. Taeyong's head rests near Jungkook's leg, and his hand is gently holding Jungkook's. Jungkook looks at him, a soft smile appearing on his face. Carefully, he runs his hand through Taeyong's hair. Jungkook quietly. Taeyong, wake up. Taeyong stirs slightly, his eyes opening with a mix of worry and exhaustion. Taeyong hurriedly. Are you okay? How are you feeling? Jungkook, smiling. I'm fine. But why aren't you in your bed? Taeyong lowers his gaze for a moment, pressing his lips together. Taeyong, I wanted to make sure you were alright. Jungkook stays silent, fragments of the previous night flashing through his mind. He recalls Dagon. Jungkook, frowning. Dagon. He was near me. What happened? Taeyong looks away, then calmly and cautiously begins to explain. Taeyong. Minsu turned out to be deceitful. He paid Dagon to set up compromising photos of you. I found you just in time. Jungkook stares at him in shock. They both fall silent, as though processing the situation. Jungkook unexpectedly. If you had seen those photos, what would you have done? Taeyoung turns to him, a faint trace of indignation lighting up his eyes. Taeyoung firmly, "You're being foolish if you think I would have believed them. I know how embarrassed you were about us sharing a room. I would never have taken such a thing seriously." Taeyoung's words hit Jungkook unexpectedly. He suddenly realizes that Taeyoung knows him better than he thought. A faint blush creeps onto his cheeks. Jungkook quietly, "You're right." Taeyoung smiles and places a reassuring hand on Jungkook's shoulder. "Taeyoung, what matters is that everything turned out fine." Suddenly, a knock sounds at the door. Taeyoung gets up to answer it, and Hoseok and Jimin walk in. Hoseok winking, "Good morning. How did you sleep?" Jimin grinning, "You look like you had an interesting night." Taeyoung and Jungkook exchange glances before Taeyoung stands next to Jungkook, firmly holding his hand. Taeyoung, with a faint smirk, "Everything was calm. Time for breakfast." Jungkook quietly, "Yeah, let's go." They walk past Hoseok and Jimin, dodging further questions. But their intertwined fingers don't go unnoticed, and their friends exchange knowing looks. After breakfast, Taeyoung and Jungkook step onto the hotel terrace. Snow-capped peaks glisten under the sun, and the air is filled with a serene quiet. Jungkook, looking into the distance, "I still can't believe all this is real." Taeyoung smiling, "What exactly? The mountains? The snow? Or us?" Jungkook hesitates slightly but answers. Jungkook, "Us." Taeyoung takes his hand, holding it warmly. Taeyoung, "You are my soul, Jungkook. Isn't that enough to make you believe?" Jungkook smiles shyly. Taeyoung gazes at him and, with quiet joy, realizes that in this moment, he is truly happy.